already cleaned the windows and watered the plants. The sheets were freshly laundered. They just needed to be pressed. Then she could make the bed. The boeuf bourguignon, Ryder's favourite stew, was simmering on the hob, awaiting final tasting and seasoning. Since it was Friday, he would be having a pint after work, and just before 7 he would come home in his stinking work clothes, which she would put in the hamper for the last time while he took a shower. Then she would serve dinner and wait for him to join her at the table. And somewhere around there, he would, if all went to plan, react to something being different, and ask her why she wasn't sitting down and eating with him. Sooner or later, he would taunt her about her failed diets, and how they only ever made her bigger, when the truth was that she had in fact lost 26 pounds since she'd started running. But this time, she wasn't going to let him rant interrupted. In her calmest and most controlled voice, she was going to tell him that she was leaving him. True, it would have been easier to simply leave a handwritten note on the table for him to find when he got home. But if she wanted him to sign the papers, she had no choice but to look him in the eyes and make him understand that her mind was made up and that they were never going to have dinner together again. Depending on how his day had been, there was a risk that he might jump up from his chair and become physical. He wouldn't hurt her, not then and there, but he was not above throwing his plate, and maybe even overturning the table. A more likely outcome, however, was that he would let his fury pump into the outermost arteries of his face while he asked her, calm as a pressure cooker, where the hell she was planning to go. How she could be naive enough to think for even a second that she could get by without him. Then he would paint himself into a corner even more by reminding her of their prenuptial agreement, and asking her if her dippy little brain had managed to forget that the house, the car, and most of the furniture de facto belonged to him. Ryder loved saying de facto. It was as if he felt it made him 2 feet taller, and his statement unequivocally true and irrevocable. It was at that point, when he was at his most cocksure and adrenaline-filled, she would put the divorce papers down on the table. At first, she couldn't understand why her earphones, which were connected to her tiny iPod, were suddenly yanked out of her ears, even less what it was that pushed, almost cut, into both her breasts, and in the next moment her collarbones and throat. It was only when she fell helplessly backwards that she saw the fishing line glint in the sunshine. The sky was beautiful, as blue and cloudless as it had been all summer. Apart from her own pulse, she could hear the tweeting of all the thousands of birds hiding somewhere just out of sight. But wait, hadn't she been listening to music? And why was she lying flat on her back in the middle of the trail? She grabbed her aching throat and sat up. The back of her head was pounding. She probably hadn't been out for more than a minute or two, so she should still have plenty of time to get everything done before Ryder got home. She was mustering the strength to stand up when she heard twigs snapping behind her. She turned around and saw the dense foliage next to the trail swaying. "Hello? Is someone there?" she called out, even though there could be no doubt of that. "Did you put up this fishing line? Hello!" She was angry now, and was not going to just let it slide, even though she didn't really have time for this. But when a man materialized from the wall of leaves, her anger vanished, and she realized she should get on her feet right now and run. But she couldn't. It was as though gravity was extra strong where she lay. The same thing seemed to be true of her gaze, which was inexorably drawn to him as he stepped out onto the trail, a shovel in his hand. Despite the cloudless summer sky, he was dressed in a dark grey raincoat and wellies so high they went well past his knees, blending with his trousers. Under the pulled-up hood of his raincoat, he wore a ski mask that hid every part of his face, except his staring eyes. She filled her lungs to scream for help, but never got that far, because she spotted the wristwatch on his arm as he raised the shovel above his head. It was an Omega Speedmaster.